privacy is a concern for a lot of people these days, but the Black community can be especially vulnerable to surveillance. Please welcome Matt Mitchell of CryptoHarlem and TechCrunch's Taylor Hatmaker to discuss why the Black community needs encryption. Actually, I lied. Quick note. If you want to submit questions, go to slido.com. That's slido.com/TCJustice. OK, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for joining us on stage. If you haven't seen Matt's shoes, I would really recommend checking them out. They're the coolest shoes I think I've ever seen. Okay. They're great. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, keep it subtle, you know. Bring a little Harlem
it's perfect.
to the Bay Area.
So we're going to dive right into it. For people who aren't extremely familiar with encryption, it sounds like a technical topic. It sounds complex. How do you explain that encryption's for everyone?
Well, you know, there are places like Ethiopia where encryption is basically illegal, but encryption is just math, and we use encryption every day when we browse the web and hit our favorite websites. You know, you can't do a search without hitting HTTPS website, and at the end of the day, it's just a mathematical formula that allows you to fall down a trap door. You know, it's really hard to get back up, but really easy to do, and it keeps everyone secure. And it's something that, especially in today's day and age, it's just part of how we use the internet and how you should think about using technology. Without encryption, it'd be a bad day for everyone.
What about if you're afraid of math?
If you're afraid of math, encryption is there for you. It's going to give you a big crypto hug, no matter what. That's what I tell people, you know? Like, come on in, the water's fine.
Big crypto hug, I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. So we're going to connect the dots a little bit here between encryption and racial justice, which aren't immediately things that go together. It's not particularly obvious. So could you talk to us a little bit about the unique threats to the Black community in terms of encryption and privacy and security?
Sure. I mean, surveillance is a tool of oppression, and Black folks have been surveilled since before the slave ships. You know, so you look at a manifest of a slave ship, and people were numbers and cataloged. You look at an overseer's diary, and it basically is like a CCTV camera, but written out in handwriting, right? All the way up to COINTELPRO, where you know, a who's who of civil rights and racial justice leaders from the 60s and 70s, you know, as part of a program, especially within this country, to dismantle those organizations because they're disruptive. You know, if you're winning, someone else is losing. Sometimes people are in this fight and they believe I'm doing what's right, but it's kind of like energy, you know, it can't be created or destroyed. Things just shift from one side to the next, and if you're pushing hard enough, you're going to get pushed back. Encryption is there in today's day and age to protect people. You know, there's no men in vans listening on headphones anymore. We're all being passively surveilled. We know that. But Black and brown folks, whether you're doing activism work or just trying to pay your bills and live your life, are heavily surveilled.
In your own life, obviously, these issues impact you on a personal level based on your identity and on a professional level now. What was your wake-up call, like in your personal life, to all of these issues, to surveillance, to privacy?
Sure. I mean, I'm a trainer in digital security and digital safety, and I work with activists and journalists. But I was a developer before all that, you know, and you know, I've worked in different newsrooms, I worked at different like Fortune 500 companies, but I worked at one, and my job there was kind of clandestine. It was actually to record employee behavior. If you work at a company, they're recording everything you do, and your behavior is being monitored to make sure you're not doing anything wrong. They're not going to ask you. And my team was there to like basically monitor people's web activity, what they were doing at their keys, what their computers were doing, for the safety of the organization. But it felt really creepy, and I didn't like it at all. And so I decided that's it.
Most people think their lives are really boring. Like, I've had a lot of those conversations with friends and loved ones where I've tried to convince them that these are issues they need to care about too. It's not just for the people at the heads of the organizations. It's not just for, you know, activists who are really visibly identifiable. How do you have that conversation with somebody? How do you convince a person, particularly a marginalized person, that they're of interest to, you know, state forces, government surveillance, things like that?
I mean, it's tricky because, like, you know, if you don't have proper security on your house, maybe you'll have a break-in. But if the difference between a day where you're using everything the way you're supposed to and a day you're just not encrypting anything, no one repels through the windows, no sirens go off, you know, seems pretty normal. But in actuality, it shows up later. It's kind of like smoking. And the end of the day, if you think you're not a person of interest, but you are black or brown, I could tell you how you are, you know. At the end of the day, it's like a weakest link issue. So if anyone around you feels the need to have any kind of security, their security equals the lowest security of their circle, and that might be you. Also, maybe you're just a stepping stone on the way to an actual target, but they would trust a message from you or an email from you. And so it gets spoofed and, you know, you're part of a phishing attack or something that takes them down. So at the end of the day, it seems unrealistic, but time and time again, we see it in reports from great researchers and reporters like George Joseph, who writes for CityLab and Intercept and The Atlantic. You know, there's lots of research out there, a lot of FOIA requests that I see, a lot of activists who I come to when it's too late, trying to do triage. And my job would be a lot easier if everyone just like maintain a baseline. And please do that, make my life easier. I don't want to come to you when it's a little too late and we're just trying to repair stuff.
So it's kind of like a preventative care model, like sort of you want to be prepared going into something so that when all hell breaks loose, you have a plan. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, there's a reason you have curtains. You wouldn't, if you had an apartment with no curtains, you might feel some sort of way, even though you might not think anyone's curious to look at you. If you had a door that like there was no lock and it would just swing back open, you might feel a little strange about that. You use a service on the internet that has no password field, anyone could just enter it. You know, you might not want to come back. There's that idea, that feeling, you got to explore that because that's steeped in reality.
When it comes to social media, I mean, that's a huge way that we broadcast all sorts of information about ourselves, obviously. There's all kinds of personal data, location data, everything out there. What sort of needless risks do you see people taking most often, and would you caution the people in this room against taking?
Well, I mean, social media tells you, come here, express yourself, you know, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you know. But at the end of the day, it's not come here and express yourself for black and brown folks, you know. At the end of the day, that could be the thing that caused you to have a gang conspiracy charge brought against you or your friends or your family. And we need to really think closely about what these organizations and companies are telling us to do, and then when they have, and then versus their transparency report, right? When you look at the legal department of all these companies releasing information about when law enforcement asks for information, we don't really fight. They just make a request. There's no subpoena. We'll just give up your information. And what that turns into, you know, in my neighborhood in Harlem, we have synchronized raids at like 7 in the morning. Doors get kicked in, and a lot of young men get pulled out of their apartments, and they're harassed and put into prison because jails don't hold you, right? Jails are overfilled. And for what may or may not be an actual charge. You like the wrong thing on Twitter, you're hanging out with your friends, it's not the same. It's kind of like, you know, we're not, there's no like equality when it comes to how this is enforced. There's companies like Geophedia and Data Miner, which law enforcement knows to use. So it's not just when you're tweeting something like, you know, F Trump or something like that, right? It's, those tweets get tracked back to the first person who wrote them, everyone who retweeted them, where those people are, if there's any location, and stored in like a huge dossier. And then months later, years later, there's a knock on your door. And that's reality where I live.
So we're talking a lot about individual security, what individuals can do to protect themselves, what they can do to their social media profiles, how we can put less information out there that can be harvested. But a big component that you've talked about is organizational security and how that fits into the puzzle. And I know you're working on a new project that you might want to elaborate a little bit about it, if you don't mind. Yeah,
I recently just finished this fellowship with Mozilla Foundation and Ford Foundation, and I was honored enough to work with Color of Change, which is an amazing civil rights, racial justice organization here in the States. And at Color of Change, I assisted them with digital safety, digital security on an organization, you know? Like if you have a company or organization, you can't install Signal. It doesn't have a phone, right? How do you start that? How do you protect your employees? How do you protect the staff, your intellectual property, all that stuff? So the things that I go back to all the time are having a data retention policy, having a digital security policy, and having incident response plans so you know what you're going to do when these things happen, because it's not a matter of if you'll be hacked, it's when, or maybe you don't even know that you are currently just someone's already living in your network. So I made a website that's going to allow people to basically answer a few questions, kind of Mad Libs their way through it, and then get a boilerplate template to just kind of start. So thanks for asking about that. It's called protectyourorg.com, and it should be finished in beta sometime this summer.
Protectyourorg.com. Right?
Yeah, and it's going to be, you know, Creative Commons, all good, like open source, all good for all people.
Awesome, sounds good.
Yeah.
Switching a little bit back to individual security, what are some privacy tools that you'd recommend right now? Like what kind of stuff are you seeing that you're liking, I guess, in terms of trends or specific tools, things like that that are out there?
Well, for your average person, I would say like start with the basics, like install an encrypted messenger of your choice, whether that's like Signal or Wire or Wicker. I mean, Signal seems to be like very easy. When I tell people to use it, no one writes me back like, how do I use this? You know, it's not working correctly. When you join, you'll realize like half of your friends are already on there, so want to just get on there. Thank you, Snapper. I see you, I feel you. And yeah, I mean, it's really important. Just begin by, there's a million steps. It's like an escalator. It never really stops when it comes to digital safety and security. But everything you do does a huge amount to protect you. It kind of raises the bar. As it is, like a 9-year-old can hack you and ruin your life, seriously, right? But you just raise the bar, so now a 12-year-old can hack you, you know? And you're like, yeah, I did it, you know? But Signal really helps you take care of a lot of things until it's really like a nation state can probably hack you. So I would just say like begin with things like that, using Signal, using Tor browser, using a lot of the open source circumvention tech that's available to us. When ISPs can sell your browsing history, it's not good for anyone. It's very bad for black and brown folks.
Yeah, that's a great point. In terms of your own work, obviously you are CryptoHarlem. What do you guys have going on right now? What have you been working on lately, or do you have anything you're excited about to share there?
Yeah, I mean, like for the past couple of years, we have open office hours in the community. And, you know, we don't put that stuff on the internet because that's not where the people are. You know, we go to the barbershops, we go to the mosque, we talk to the imam, we go to the church, we talk to the pastors, and we reach people where they really are. You know, if there's like a hot party going on, there'll be like a CryptoHarlem flyer there. You show up, and there are people there. There are like hackers, there's govies, there's community people asking questions, working with you, explaining how these things affect you. I read this article recently in Ars Technica about a piece of research from Stanford on Oakland police, and it said that 57% out of 1,000 transcripts of body cameras, 57% of people who would be, identify as white had like a really positive, interaction with police, while 61% of people who self-identify as black had like the most negative interaction, and it's all done with linguistic and sentiment analysis. So it's like, from the minute someone speaks to you, the tone of voice, the words they say, the grammar that's used is not the same. And if you live in your life, you don't know, you're not getting pulled over with other folks, right? You don't realize that there's a huge difference with how that is. So CryptoHarlem, we take things like that and we explain, like, this is how it affects you where you sit and stand, and this is what you can do to, protect yourself and get the word out. And we do it once a month. Because I'm a hacker, like, if anyone's in town or if I can like digitally, securely like video someone in, we'll do that. And I think the community really loves it, and it's really important because it's my way of giving back to where I am. And everyone sitting here, it's amazing that you came out here. Think about your way of giving back to where you are. It could be small, It makes a huge difference.
Great, yeah, that's...
Dang, a hand clap. Snapper, snapper, yes.
We love snapping. That's really important work, so thank you for sharing that. I think we have some questions from the audience, if I am not mistaken.
We do. Let's see, can you hear my mic? All right, wonderful. So Matt, we have a couple questions for you. We'll start with the first. How do you find what resources from the developer community are safe to use for encryption and friendly towards activist work?
That's a great question. A lot of people try to make awesome software to protect you, but you can't just be someone who's trying to make new software and roll it out for undocumented folks, people who put their life, their liberty, their freedom at risk. It's a bad idea. So if you were just trying to look at it critically, you would look to see if that stuff has been independently audited by a security researcher like myself, right? So if it's not been independently audited, you want to not mess around with it. If they don't have any kind of bug bounty or way for people to report problems that they found, that's not a good sign. I'm on the advisory council for a group called the Open Technology Fund, and that's where the State Department sends money to people who are trying to build circumvention tech in other countries. But a lot of that stuff is where the money for apps like Signal came from, that initial seed capital. So if you're trying to build an app like that, just go to OTF and fill out the open application, and the cycles are pretty fast. It's a totally different world than the I want to make that money in Palo Alto world. I'm trying to save the world. So there's organizations that are out there that can help you. But I would say if you, I have a list on my Twitter called The List, and it's people in the InfoSec, information security world. Read what they say about these apps, because you're going to see that most people just pan and thumbs down an app. There's enough information out there for you to make sure you don't choose a bad one. Great question, whoever posted it. More questions.
Wonderful. We have one left, which is, Matt, again, obviously to you. If companies are watching employees, why aren't they dealing with the harassment that they see? Are they just enabling it?
To you, yeah. I mean, let's be real, right? Like, we all know that harassment is a problem, right? But what is like the root of harassment, and what does it really mean? Like, you know, like we have these organizations where they're mostly, you know, we're going to see like a cis white male executive person who's in a position of privilege and power, right? And in that energy cannot be created or destroyed situation, how do you hold on that power? You throw some elbows up, and that's what harassment looks like, right? So we need to work together, we need to organize together to fight that. You know, like obviously it's a known issue and you're being monitored. That's to protect the organization. When there's a lawsuit, when there's anything like that, they want to see that, they want to know that it's coming. So use encryption, work with the people around you, share your stories and be brave. You're not the only one. To this day, what we see is like mostly when it comes to tech, women in tech coming forward, right? We see a few people when it comes to diversity and inclusion in tech coming forward with their stories, like Erica Joy comes forward with her story and, you know, writes those blog posts. It takes bravery to do that. We need to support those people as soon as those things are dropped. You know, whenever I see something like that, the first thing I do is I write that person in the DMs like, yo, let me keep you protected from trolls. Let me show you how to take your personal information off the internet, because it's a real thing, you know. That stuff is in People, it's in Spokio, it's on those websites, and you don't want that backlash to affect you. So yeah, I mean, it's on us because they're not going to fix it, but we outnumber them, we use the products, we work with their products. We need to do something.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Let's see, we have just a little bit of time left, so if you could give everyone here in the audience, like before we leave today, before you walk out for lunch, whatever, when you get up out of your chair, one piece of homework, what would you say to do?
I would say to go to this website, twofactorauth.org, type in like Gmail or Twitter or Facebook, and like lock down every account you use. If you use a banking website, just having a username and password isn't enough. This allows you to like really protect yourself from getting hacked. So if you're going to be using Signal, because I told you that earlier, I know you guys already downloaded it, definitely make sure you go to twofactorauth.org, type in every service you use, and set up that verification for those services. That's what will give a hacker who's going against you a bad day. And if whether you're an ally or you self-identify as black or brown, you know, Latino, African American, whatever, read about what's happening in the communities, the inner city communities, because as someone who lives in the inner city, that's what I see. Like we have CCTV cameras, automatic license plate readers, you know, like motion detectors. All this stuff is like laid out, kind of like beta tested in a community that's defeated, in a community that's like, well, you know, that's how they do. They don't care about us. They're not going to complain. We need to complain. We need to raise those issues up because it starts there, gets perfected there, and then once it has like years and years of data, year over year, then it gets rolled out in, you know, other parts of our country. And I think like that's kind of like the front lines of this surveillance issue. It's the unpopular, the marginalized, you know? So if you're LGBTQ, gender nonconforming, this is an issue that's in your life, touching the people you care about, right? If you're black or brown, it's in your life, touching the people you care about. And if you're an ally, get there, work with your friends, and make something happen. So that's what I say. Start your own kind of crypto Harlem, start your own crypto party, talk to the people about these issues, explain what's going on, because it's on us, because no one's going to do it. If anything, this government, this situation that we're in this country proves that we can't sit on the sidelines anymore.
Well, great. I mean, that's all great advice, and it's a great starting place for everyone in the room. So thank you so much for spending time here on stage to break it down for us.
Boom. Snap it.